The following podcast is a little fiery but mostly peaceful. If you're an automaton, turn away now and shelter in place. If you're a Catholic ready to renew your prescriptions of red pills and white pills, stay tuned. Welcome to Catholics Aren't Zombies. I'm your host, Chris Munier. Is work your idol? Well, now that everybody has heard my recent episode about pain and knows where I stand on that, let's shift gears a little and examine more of a problem with excess. You see, many Americans have this idea that the only difficult thing worth doing in life is working on and on and on. They work till you drop. Now, to be sure, as I've said, pain is good. Workaholism is stupid. That's the topic I want to discuss on today's podcast. And I'm going to use a slightly different format. We're going to do an article review. So I found an article from 2017 by author Rob Weil from Mike.com. And it's titled, "Are Long Hours the Secret to Success? Here's how to maximize your productivity to get ahead at work." It's kind of a long title. So I'm going to go through this article, give commentary on it as I go, and then I'm going to give you the way I do it after I finish reviewing the article. So let's jump right into it. This is kind of an interesting little write-up that this guy did. He starts off with this whole thing about John Gruden, the NFL coach, who's a commentator now. A really cool coach. He goes on about how John Gruden gets up at 3:17 in the morning and listens to the Notre Dame fight song and works at really long hours no matter what's going on, rain or shine and success or not. This is just kind of his approach to life, and he sticks with it. That's pretty cool. I'm going to skip past some of that stuff and just get into some of the content, though. So starting about the fourth or fifth paragraph, I'm quoting here. "The average person may think that just showing up to their job and doing great work for 8 hours a day is plenty. And Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek, says you can get away with even less. Life doesn't have to be so damn hard," he wrote. "Most people, myself included, have spent too much time convincing themselves that life has to be hard. A resignation to 9-to-5 drudgery in exchange for sometimes relaxing weekends and the occasional keep it short or get fired vacation." Yeah, and this is me talking now. I can definitely vouch for that part about the vacations. Keep it short or they fire you. Even if they don't say that, they'll definitely imply it, and there's a whole bunch of innuendo. And that's kind of what you get if you go into the 9-to-5 corporate hellhole world, so definitely don't do that. Continuing on. "But we all know that many successful people burn both ends of the candle. For example, the 256 CEOs who responded to a 2015 survey by the business platform Domo reported working a mean of 58.15 hours per week, or between 10 and 11 hours per weekday, plus nearly 6 hours of extra time on the weekend. They also get significantly less sleep, with those same CEOs averaging 6.7 hours a night compared with 8.7 for regular workers." So stopping there again, yes, this is a big deal. You got these workahol types, these CEOs who they'll make $250,000 a year, or who am I kidding? They'll make $1 million a year plus stock options, but they don't get any sleep. 6.7, that's probably better than I would have thought. That's actually not what I sleep, give or take. And I don't know that regular workers really need to, or that they sleep 8.75 hours. But there is a gap in terms of sleep. CEOs can be kind of nuts. I'd say your average CEO probably they sleep like 4 hours, and that's nutty. Continue with the article. "For some, even 11-hour workdays aren't enough. There are 168 hours in a week. You should be working most of them," they're quoting somebody. Self-made millionaire and New York Times bestselling author Grant Cardone told CNBC, "And when you're not working, you should be reading." Warren Buffett famously advised, "Read 500 pages like this every day. That's how knowledge works. It builds like compound interest." So how hard should you be working to get ahead? We checked in with executives, academics, and others who put in seemingly crazy hours to get the answer. I don't know about working most of them. 168 hours a week. Again, that's a lot of time. So yeah, you could work 60 hours a week and you still got over 100, but you got to sleep. What people miss out on is that they neglect all the spiritual stuff. They forget that your real calling in life, for most people, if you're working, is to raise a family. These CEOs, the other thing they're not going to tell you is that most of them, they might not even bother to get married. If they do, maybe they have one kid, or if they have any kids, they don't really do anything with them and give them a latchkey. And so you got all that money from being a CEO, and what good does it freaking get you? Because your kids grow up, they hate you, they turn into left-wing communists. They're kind of leaving some stuff out here, but I thought I'd fill that in for you. Continuing, is the Amazon way the right way? Working long hours is fairly common in the tech industry. Amazon is famous for a particularly grueling workplace culture, which the New York Times described in 2015 like this, quote, "At Amazon, workers are encouraged to tear apart one another's ideas in meetings, toil long and late, and help to standards that the company boasts are unreasonably high," close quote. While Amazon disputed parts of the article, it did not deny that some workers put in long hours. That strategy appears to be working. Amazon is now worth $500 billion, and the Amazon effect has been widely blamed for the rapid rate of retail store closings in the U.S. in recent years. Likewise, Gary Vaynerchuk, host of the popular Apple show Planet of the Apps, advises an approach to life that cuts out leisure in order to maximize focus on your objectives. Quote, "I push work ethic because it's a variable and I believe it's far more controllable," he said. "Hard work really matters." Stopping there for a minute. This is Chris again. He's got a very good point. I've mentioned before, you got to put in your 10,000 hours. There's no substitute for actually going and pulling the trigger. But does it mean you got to go 70 hours a day? Does that mean you neglect spending some time in Eucharistic adoration, as Catholics know to do? I think there's some smarter ways to do it. Certainly you could beat your head against the wall. That's what Thomas Edison did. Thomas Edison worked and worked and worked and worked. And then he got smart and figured out how to steal stuff from Tesla, who didn't work as hard and produced all the stuff we hear about. A lot of his inventions were either modeled off of or blatantly stolen from some other folks. But not to get off on a tangent on that, but it just really speaks to the fact that, yes, working really hard will get you the results. But once you figure out how to work smart, you stop working hard and you just work smart. That's what I tend to think. But Gary Vee's a lot richer than I am, so what the heck do I know? But it also depends on, do you even really want to be rich? Do you want to chase the paper? Continuing with the article. But he adds an important caveat. If you don't have talent, he argues, it doesn't matter how many hours you work a day. As he explains in the video below, success requires a cross-section of work and talent. And there's a video that they link to. It's on YouTube. He's probably right about that, too. There's that old expression, you got to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good. So, yeah, there's a little bit of the innate ability mixed and meshed with some hard work. So you got to have a little bit of both to be successful. I'd agree with that. Continuing on, when burnout kills productivity. Long hours are also the norm in medicine, where 12-hour shifts have largely replaced the standard 8-hour workday. For nurses and first-year medical residents are now allowed to work up to 24 hours straight. Yikes. The thinking is that reducing the number of shift changes per day will also reduce the chance of errors when one worker hands off care of patients to the next shift. All right, I'm going to stop right there. You can see where this is going. Wow. Answer yourself this. When you go into surgery, boys and girls, do you want your anesthesiologist to be on their 20th freaking hour? I mean, that's what it says in the article, 24 hours straight. And they think they're doing something efficiently. They think they're reducing changeovers, which is smart. Yes, I agree with that. But they think they're doing something really clever and time-saving and efficient by having people work 24 hours straight. That is insane. If you work 24 hours straight, when you drive home, you're going to see like dead cattle skulls over on the sidewalk on the side of the road or something. You're going to start hallucinating. Seriously, for crying out loud, if you take anything away from this, don't work 24 hours straight. This is why the medical establishment has so many not only narcissistic people, but they're Looney Tunes on top of it. This is a really awful approach to your professional life. This is overkill. This is the vice of excess to infinity. Do not do things this way. And the article goes on to explain why burnout's a bad thing and why you shouldn't work that many hours. I'm going to skip all that because I'm hoping that everybody can realize, based on what I just said, that, yeah, that's overkill. Don't do that. Later on in the article, let's see, why do Americans work so much? Of course, some workers, like lawyers, or anyone who gets paid by the hour for that matter, are incentivized to work longer hours based on the nature of how they get paid. Lawyers at large firms can often work up to 70 hours, The Atlantic reported. The American Bar Association does not have any firm rules on billing hours, instead only offering guidelines on communicating rates with clients, according to spokesperson Priscilla Totten. As technology has automated more traditional work, from building cars to digging ditches, it might seem that people would work shorter hours as opposed to longer ones. Instead, we're working more. The share of employed American men regularly working more than 48 hours per week is higher today than it was 25 years ago, according to a landmark 2005 study by economists Peter Kuhn and Fernando Lozano. I'm going to stop there. You notice they're comparing 2005 to, and I guess that would be to 1980. Well, here's a big reason why. Inflation. We're having to work a whole lot more because we know in order to maintain the lifestyle that we had yesterday or yesteryear, we got to keep working more because the paper money's worth less. So this is a great example of economic tyranny at the hands of the central banking apparatus that has rendered the money in our wallet useless. That's why we have to work like crazy. That's why we went from working 35 to 40 hours to 50 to 55. And they're not telling you that. The other thing I mentioned, lawyers, and how they get paid. Another big takeaway, right along with the medical industry, folks, don't become a lawyer. Oh, man. I mean, unless you feel some real burning call to go and study constitutional law, which might be the only good one, or something noble like that, for crying out loud, don't become a lawyer. There's a reason they have high levels of alcoholism, suicide, etc. So do doctors. Oh, boy. These are professions you just don't want to go into right now. The sad thing is we need doctors. Maybe we sort of need lawyers, but we need doctors. And yet, I could pull up another study or some data here. Take my word for it. Maybe I'll do an episode on it. Doctors are committing suicide way more than they used to. And it's because of this workaholism that's not at all unrelated to economic tyranny, the devaluation of our currency, taxes, the nanny state, all of that. It's insane. That's why people are working so much. Let's see. Going further down in the article, this is some good stuff, I think. They said, focus on results, not hours logged. At the end of the day, what matters most may not be how many hours you put in, but what you have to show for your efforts. As Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, told the Wall Street Journal, I keep reminding people that success is not based on the number of hours that you've worked. It isn't like venture capitalists say, well, how many hours are you planning on working? They ask, what is your insight? What can you bring to the table? She also notes that if you're working 24/7, you're not going to be able to come up with interesting ideas. Stopping there. Yeah, I think she's right. I don't really agree with much else of what she does with YouTube because YouTube's a bunch of tyrants. We know this. That's nothing new. But she's got a pretty good point. If you're counting the number of hours, you're staring at that clock, you're not really doing a whole lot. There's any number of people. I've seen professors that do this. They'll go and they'll talk a mean old line of smack about, oh, I work 70 hours, or oh, I do this, or I work 6-7 days a week. Yeah, they work Sunday, Tuesday. They don't care about the Sabbath. But then you go and you actually watch them. You observe what their tasks are like throughout the day, and then you notice, well, darn, you spent about 2 hours over there talking about fantasy football, didn't you? And you called that working. You branded that as working. All right, bucko, fine, go ahead, whatever you say. But so, yeah, she's right about this. It's not the hours you work. It's not counting the clock. What the heck do you produce? Do you have an accomplishment under your belt? I'll talk more about that in a second. And let's see, closer to the end of the article now. Working smarter, not harder. Productivity rather than raw hours worked seems to be the name of the game. Maybe you will need to put in more hours to finish a project on time. Or maybe you need to scale back in order to increase the quality of the ideas and work you produce. And they're quoting somebody here. Carrying your weight and surprising your manager with peak productivity is a surefire way to impress and prove you are a valuable asset to the company. If you feel your productivity is slipping, take strides to step up your game and increase your daily and weekly output. Business Insider notes. For some, that might mean figuring out what time of day you are most productive. Laura Milligan, a career advancement coach, told Mike in an email that although she starts her workday at 4 a.m., the amount of hours I put in doesn't have a lot to do with the time I rise. Normally, I put in about 8 to 10 hours. Need help boosting your productivity? There are now loads of productivity apps available. Susmita Baral suggests Priority Matrix. If you suck at knowing what to do when and are guilty of procrastinating on a time-sensitive task for something with no deadline, do that. So you can see that I think they're pretty good with this article in recognizing that, yes, there's the general idea of you got to put in some time, but you don't want to fetishize being super overly structured. You want to put some rules in place, get you a strategy, learn how to work smart, focus a lot more on the results. And sometimes if you do that, you end up working way less and you don't beat your head against the wall. As I promised, I'm done with that article now. I'm going to show you how I do it, the method that I focus on doing. There's something called Pareto optimality. It's an economics mathematical concept by this guy Pareto. The way it works is that you get 80% of the results from 20% of the incident. I'm not going to go into the whole theory, but I kind of modified this when I heard from a professor that he had this really cool way of scheduling his workday. So where he got 80% of his work, his research, done in 20% of his time. And he did it in the morning. It's like when you first wake up, get your coffee, do what you got to do, and then set out 3 hours in the morning, 20% of your day, your waking day, your work day. You're going to get 80% of your work done there. That's when you're going to do the hardest tasks. That's when you're going to write your research paper. That's when you're going to come up with your great, fantastic ideas and actually execute them. And yeah, this is a professor I knew that did that. He called it his 80 time, and he wouldn't let nobody interrupt him. He didn't see a bunch of visitors. It was early in the morning when it was kind of dark and cold. You're not being bothered by a bunch of distractions. You're not picking up your phone, checking the email and Facebook. This is the hard stuff. After that, after the afternoon, let's say it's 2 o'clock, you can kind of chill, relax, get a few things done, but you don't feel guilty because you got your hard stuff done during your 80 time early in those 3 hours, that 3-hour window where you really go hard. What it really does is it gives you a huge psychological lift. Early accomplishments before noon give you that big psychological boost. This sense of, I don't say pride, but this real sense of accomplishment. And you feel bad when you don't get this. You feel bad when it's 8 p.m., your day is sort of coming to a close, and you look at yourself like, dang, what did I accomplish? What can I hang my hat on? Oh, crap, nothing. Whereas could have eliminated that whole problem by noon if you just worked your butt off 3 hours in the morning going hard, even if you accomplished nothing the rest of the afternoon. That's the approach I take to it. It's called the 80-20 approach. 80% of your work within 3 hours in the morning. Maybe that's not something you can do if you're working in a bank or at McDonald's or something that requires you to be in-person interfacing throughout the whole day. You might not be able to, but for folks who are in independent and maybe executive level work, entrepreneur kind of work, you could pull this off. Like me, I do podcasts, right? Well, so I do my podcasts in the morning. That's the most important aspect of what I'm doing. Maybe I'll do some of my writing. I write books. If I get a good amount done, well, cool. I don't have to stress out panicking, doing a bunch of writing at 7 or 8 in the afternoon, evening, after I ate dinner and I'm all full from eating. You never get good work done then. I don't know why people talk about being night owls. You're not really going to get that much work done. I don't want to depend on that. Besides, I might fall asleep then, and then, oh, crap, I got nothing done. If I procrastinate that long, no way. I would recommend, if you can, as many people as possible, get on the bandwagon of working early, work hard, get it over with. Pull the trigger. I'm going to do a whole episode on pulling the trigger, too. That's a really important topic. There's one other really big issue with this. They didn't address it in the article. It wasn't a Catholic article, so I'm going to give it to you here because this is a Catholic podcast. Working on Sunday is garbage. Don't do it. Don't fall for it. Don't play games. Don't say, oh, I'm going to do a little bit. Oh, the canon law lets me do this, that. No. Stop playing games. You might have to drive to and from church. Let that be the little bit of work you're allowed to do. But don't work on Sunday. Get your work done in the other 6 days. That should be plenty of time. Even if you are one of these 60-hour-a-week wonders that can't stop working because you're crazy. All right, well, 60 hours amortized over the course of 6 days is 10 hours a day. Okay, do that. You don't need Sunday. 10 times 6 is your 60. If you actually do all that, what do you need to work Sunday for? Stop messing up the Lord's Day. Even if you're told to do this, this might be a good indicator as to whether you ought to get out of your job or not. If your boss tries to cajole you or Jedi mind trick you into working Sunday, it's time to get out, guys. It's time to formulate your exit strategy. Because you know what? Your boss doesn't outrank God. Render unto God first. But the part where you render unto God is far more important than what you render to Caesar or your boss or whatever else you consider Caesar. Because there's a lot of things we consider to be Caesar, and maybe they're not. Don't mess up the Sabbath, guys. Come on, your soul is on the line. That's the third commandment. If you mess up the third commandment, you're probably not going to get the first commandment right. So to recap, because I know there was a lot of information spread out different ways, the article and what I just said. Recap: work smart, work efficiently, work hard if necessary. Don't give God the short end of the stick. Store up your treasures in heaven. Do your duties according to your state in life, and then be at peace with that. That's all I got, guys. Buy Caesar Vacantism, my book. Go to my website, ditchthestateleveholychurch.com. Work the right way. Don't make work an idol. And have a good one. Adios. Deus vult.